and I practice the ancient art of fan fiction.
Nerd.
All right.
It's
No need
geek,
for name
actually,
calling.
but
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Cheap Seat Critics podcast, season. 16. Thank you.
We really
I
should have
almost said
rested on that.
15. Oh boy, season 16, episode 1. With me today we have.
Hello, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, the fan fiction writer, a geeky writer.
The consumer of no fan fiction, Crimson Rune.
And dude, I'm certainly a fan of fiction, Spranks. And listen, if you like what we do here, you can look up Cheap Seat Critics podcast on the interwebs. You'll find us on like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LetterBox, visual stuff on YouTube and Rumble. Even though it's an audio podcast, I know. But hey, we do little updates over there and stuff. So thanks. Anyway, covering Owl House today, episode 1, titled "A Lion, Witch, and a Warden." Now, people might be curious, and we didn't really go over this, but anyone want to explain what this season is, or on visual side, why we're dressed in these funny outfits?
Seemingly look very disjointed.
What do they have in common, though? We have a lantern. Which lantern are you? Because there's a few in there.
Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Hal Jordan. We got Hal Jordan.
Don't want to be Guy Gardner.
You can clearly say I don't have the hair for that. We got Wash.
We have Wash from Firefly.
And an unnamed?
Yeah, it's an unnamed Imperial pilot uniform.
From Star Wars. I mean, that one kind of gives it away.
Yeah. Well, I just may as well actually throw it out there. We're covering pilots this season. Pilots and episodes for TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it being that pilots are shorter, than covering a whole film, rather than doing just kind of like 3 in a season, we're done. We each get 3. So it'll be 9 total.
Yeah. Almost as long as Decades.
That's true.
Nearly there.
Well, I'm actually going to start us off with facts, and then we'll get into history.
As you do.
Do I? I thought it's usually history.
Not usually.
Not usually.
That's fine. It's fine. Whatever. All right. Well, their initial release date of The Owl House was January 10th, 2020 on Disney Channel, but it was March 23rd, 2020 for Disney XD. It has a runtime.
Was gone.
I don't know. I don't watch it anymore, but probably not. Maybe. I don't know. It has a runtime of 22 minutes. Its budget is kind of unknown, but it's guesstimate that 1 minute of animation costs anywhere between $25,000 to $10,000. Wait.
25?
Dude, no. 2,500. 25. I should have said 2,500 to $10,000.
There we go.
Aha.
Are you saying that for the show or in animation in general?
Animation in general.
Per episode, you say?
Just to get per minute of animation.
Gee-bus. Okay. And they wonder why Disney's collapsing.
Well, this isn't a... Sorry, go ahead.
Box office, couldn't tell you. Couldn't find that. Its
no
rating... Nope, there is no box office. Its rating is TVY7. Its genre is listed as fantasy, horror, comedy. And this episode, the first one, is directed by Steven Sandoval. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Who's also directed episodes of Gravity Falls, Rick and Morty, and Shaolin Showdown. And I have a couple.
Are there horror aspects in this? Did anyone catch any horror?
I was going to say, if you don't think The Changeling is horror, this is absolutely not horror.
Maybe for a 7-year-old. I mean, there's decapitation.
That's literally the only thing I was thinking of, that could be.
But it's
construed as horror.
It's got no consequence, the decapitation.
No, I just again for a 7-year-old, maybe. Is this as scary as Goosebumps? Goosebumps might be scarier.
I think Goosebumps would probably Goosebumps I would classify as children's horror. I don't know if I'd classify this as this is children's horror. Definitely children's fantasy, but
no, this is more
at least based off
comedy.
the pilot. I don't know if the further down the road the show gets more horror. I don't know.
That's true. It might maybe want to go further in.
Gravity Falls going down the line did get a little more horror, though. A couple fun facts I have. This episode was released on Disney Now and YouTube before its television premiere on Disney Channel. However, I could not find the release date on that.
It's everywhere on Disney.
Yeah. This is the first episode not to feature the theme song and the only episode to not feature a title card.
That makes sense. It is the first episode. Pilots are usually, they either have intros or they don't. Usually that's how it works.
Yeah. Not sure if anyone caught this, but a pile of contraband inside the Conformatorium contains the following books, Necronomicon and Necronomicon 2.
It's the Conformatorium, isn't it?
Yeah, Conformatorium.
Thank you. I couldn't pronounce that off of what I read. And last fact I have here is in the Southeast Asia broadcast, the words dumb, stupid, and sucker are all cut in the English audio track, as well as the scene where Warden Wrath decapitates Ida was also cut out.
That would be confusing.
The action of cutting the head, though. She still had her head off throughout the rest of the episode, right?
Maybe. I did not view the Southeast Asia broadcast version.
Interesting. That's
just a quote I found, or a fact I found. Again, take all these facts with a grain of salt. Found them online.
It's definitely an interesting. Yeah, it makes sense. I guess there's a lot of different broadcasting laws.
All right. With that, now we'll go into history, and let's start with Crimson. Crimson, what is your history with the show?
All right. I've heard of it through you, Sprinks, and that is it.
Oh.
I
a little more.
I never watched it on TV. I've only heard of it through you. I've seen, I think, the first trailer when it came out, and that was it.
Okie doke.
I saw it once for the podcast.
Writer.
I've seen it once for the podcast. I think I heard about it when shortly after our Gravity Falls stint. I don't know if it was out around then, but might have heard something about it. But no, I've only seen the first episode. I don't have a history with it.
Okie doke. And lastly, me. This is probably my third time watching the episode 1. I've seen every episode of all 3 seasons. I binged it on Disney Plus, and I think that's about it.
All right.
So, our structure today is linear. It's a 22-minute pilot, so we'll just go straight through. Also, funny thing about this, hopefully we'll link this. I don't know if we can link it on the audio sides, but the visual sides, I believe we can. The whole episode is viewable to be watched on YouTube. So hopefully we can do a connection for those interested. For those listening who don't have access to Disney Plus or somewhere to watch it.
Yeah, there's streaming services tend to sometimes release pilots on freely, sometimes temporarily, sometimes permanently. I know the Halo pilot was out there for free for a while on the Paramount channel.
Ooh, wonderful.
Probably to their detriment.
Need to watch that.
Probably to their detriment, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've already seen that. No, I have no plans to see it.
Yeah, we covered it, I think. Yeah. If you want to know our thoughts, it's covered on that one. Anywho, we'll start at the beginning of the so-called book report situation. Something I'll begin. Something I picked up is the Gilder Snake that Azure is fighting must be telepathic for not open its mouth to speak.
Oh, so we're hearing the voice inside its head?
Yeah.
It could have a second mouth somewhere that we don't get to see.
Considering
Yes,
this is
that's true.
Luz's head, Luz?
Lose.
This is Luz's head. I don't. Sure.
The snake's scales could vibrate at a frequency of which the scales can speak for it. It's fantasy. Who knows?
That's a real stretch, but sure.
I mean, it's not absurd because this isn't Luz's like inner mindscape or whatever. It's just her imagination.
But yes, most likely is telepathic.
Yes, probably. That would be the idea.
Yeah, and I'm glad that this was kind of not a real scenario in the beginning here, because I immediately wrote how lazy the writing was for it. The Gilder Snake, I'm Good Witch Azura, warrior of peace. I'm like, okay, that is so clunky. But it's really not relevant to anything, and it just sets up her fantasy stuff. So
Yeah, it's written by a 14-year-old.
No, I thought this was the show. I didn't think this was the mind of a child.
Yeah, he's saying his first impression.
If this is the show, if this is for the show, this is horrible. But since it's the mind of a kid, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it works. I would still probably. I wouldn't fail her on her book report, but if that's how she started it.
That's true. I'd like to read what her papers then.
I'd like to see the book that she's recommending. I'm assuming the book she's recommending is the one that stays with her for the rest of the story.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
At least the first episode.
Yeah, Azura, the good witch, or whatever, warrior peace.
Yeah, I wonder if she is a good witch.
Yeah, who's to say?
You probably.
Maybe she does.
Enough.
Well, she calls herself good. I'm the good witch.
So does the other witch I'm referring to.
Well, I'm sure you're going to bring up, is she a bad witch or not anyways? Seems like your kind of question. Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm just connecting it to another good witch we've discussed, which was in Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Another so-called good witch that you had a big theory
Plenty
issue
of evidence.
With. Yeah.
Plenty of evidence going against her there. Check out our Wizard of Oz coverage if you're interested.
Yeah. Do you have a time setting like when this is supposed to take place in Springs?
No, I don't. Of what
I know she's using a smartphone.
Year,
but I think
best I can go with is initial release, so could be 2019 to 2020.
Okay. Then yeah, I have some more issues with dialogue that we're going to get to then. I think starting out here, this is a very interesting choice. They decide to show Luz. I'm not going to pronounce her name right.
Luz.
They're gonna. It's an interesting choice that they decided to focus on the very particular character trait at the beginning. I think it's good at establishing how estranged she is from the rest of her classmates and her professor and everything. There is a problem though. Is her eccentricity harms other people?
Well, she's detached from reality. She's
very
a normal kid would know. You don't bring fireworks to school. You don't bring spiders. The eyelid thing was funny. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't harm anybody. It doesn't traumatize anybody. I think everything else actually causes physical harm. I mean, her snake actually attacks the principal.
Attacks tons of students.
That's true. It also that's the other snakes, the backup snakes that attack the students.
I was curious how she'd get access to all this.
That's kind of the word.
Shop.
Yeah, the interesting.
Find them in her yard.
Yeah, the interesting thing about all of this is it's setting up a core aspect of a character, but we're going to reach, as we get further along in this first episode, we're going to reach Falcon and Winter Soldier's levels of contradiction, which is a problem.
Writer, you're making me so excited right now.
I know. I'm laying the groundwork, okay?
Boy. Oh boy.
But for now, in the opening minutes, I understand the point of it. the contradiction and the issues that crop up with it aren't really highlighted until later. But obviously, the point of it right now is to get the point across that she's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's this pilot made me want to go back and watch pilots of shows from my childhood, because a lot of the messaging in this felt so heavy, and I couldn't remember if my childhood shows were this heavy or they were more subtle. Because they tell you point blank so much in this, and this sets up the groundwork in the beginning here. And I'm thinking like kid shows, not toddler shows like Sesame Street and stuff, where they pretty much tell you what the lesson is every single episode of those shows.
I mean, more like Danny Phantom or Jimmy Neutron or
Yeah, all that stuff.
Johnny
Fairly Odd
Bravo.
Parents.
I don't know how back you want to go. You want to go all the way
I
back
Robot.
to like Flintstones,
You
or
could get more recent with like Johnny Test, I guess, the 2010-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, the
But
messaging.
did you make me want to do that?
Yeah, the messaging here is definitely at the forefront. I'll say that I don't mind the message. Like the idea that you should embrace your eccentricities is ultimately, I think, a good one. Unless you lose, and then but yeah, it's one of those things where I guess I appreciate the message. I'm just not sure if the delivery was as smooth as they wanted it to be.
okay, I can see that. It's very caked on thick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely
much every scene.
no subtlety in it, and I mean it is for kids, but you know kids are intelligent or smarter than you think, even though we always call them dumb. So I don't know. I feel there was a better way to go about it than the overbearing message.
Yeah, that's why I want to go back, because I don't know if I have my nostalgia childhood glasses on and I was a kid and didn't see it, or if it actually wasn't as apparent as this is. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the comparison I always make to is Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the television show, opened up every episode with like a moral lesson that was supposed to be kind of interpreted from the show. Uh, it never. Most of the time, it was just fucking. It felt like gibberish, but I understand at least the intent behind it. Because I guess it got lost in the show for me while I was watching it. I didn't spend my time in the show looking for that moral lesson.
Gotcha. Let's see here. I don't know if I'm the only one who got this connection that I saw, but I like the 50-minute or 50-second. Goodness, 50-second mark.
Ahead.
Yeah. During the Romeo and Juliet tryouts, when Luz plunges a spork into her and releases intestines, really gave me a flashback to Zootopia. That's how that movie starts out.
Yeah, obviously way less graphic, but yes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Zootopia. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Springs. I also thought of Zootopia. I'm like, kind of reminiscent. It's reminiscent of something in Zootopia. I guess I'll keep it ambiguous for Crimson over there.
Yeah. Also a question, because just doesn't I don't know if it just shows that this world is different from ours, but is that how close? I don't know how, if anyone can answer. How close is the depiction of a griffin shown here to accuracy? Like, does that
Griffins
work?
change based upon whatever fantasy or mythology it's in. So I'm just accepting that it's a part of this particular world / universe, because it has a general appearance, and then everyone just kind of creates their own versions of that general appearance.
It's the first griffin I've seen with a pigeon head.
Yeah, that's a first.
It's spiders.
Yeah.
So.
Breathing spiders, or that's new to me. I figured just like any bird head on a body could function as a griffin. Doesn't need to be a hawk.
Usually they're portrayed through predator birds. At least from what I've seen.
Oh, Crimson brought up something to me like a while ago, but I think a griffin with a shoe bill would be a look.
It would be very unique. And shoebills are already scary because they're like 4 foot tall.
Yeah, you said they're like dinosaurs.
They are. They're like dinosaurs.
I should take notes for my next D&D campaign.
Anyway, Crimson, point out to you.
Sure, I can bring up a point. The point that it's not fair that she got sent to summer camp saying they'd give her a chance, and then the snake just attacks, and they're like, okay, well, there's your chance. That isn't fair.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's very situational. Yeah. I assume that's mostly played for laughs, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely what it's for.
But I guess it speaks to what her parents...
And for expediting the story a bit, because they wouldn't need to film a whole nother segment of her actually screwing up again to send her. That'd be a waste of time.
Yeah.
So I wish they just were like, all right, this is enough strikes, time to go to summer camp. So you wish one more. I'd cut the joke.
You'd cut the joke. Yeah. Okay.
I'd cut the joke. I think.
Well, would you?
There's already a lot of
joke with the line. Like, what if it just says like that was your chance or no chance?
And it attacks the principal.
Just go and then attacks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So the line, sure. Cut the line for me.
All right. And I asked Crimson right there for a point, but it seems like it went right over Ryder about to say something.
No. That was pretty much my what I thought of that scene. I assume we're going literally, so.
Yeah. Sorry. It just seemed like when I asked Crimson for a point, you were about to say something, and I cut you off. So.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about that scene. I guess my take was it was just like I couldn't. I always play for last, but I can't tell if that's the parent being subtly fed up, even though she's comes across as mostly caring and loving. Mostly.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's correct.
She has a lot of patience with this child.
She has a lot of patience, but she's ultimately correct. I mean, her child's eccentricities is hurting other people, so.
Yeah. Bingo. And before we get too far along, a line I did like was during the snake fight, the Gilder snake. No, my only weakness, dying.
That's pretty funny. Yeah,
that is.
There's definitely
past that too much.
Yeah, the humor in this mostly works for me. I don't know if I wrote any commentary specifically about that down, but it just knows that it's there. I quite enjoyed a fair amount of the humor. It was very simplistic, but it tickled my brain. So
I didn't write it down, but I should have written down how many characters in this first episode are Alex Hirsch. Because the Gilder Snake certainly is. And just multiple others.
Yeah.
Probably not the Warden.
No, the Warden's voiced by someone else. Which I'm kind of surprised you didn't pick up who that is. Maybe not necessarily just the voice actor's name, but the voice of how similar it sounds to something else.
Well, I'm notoriously bad at picking up voice. I'm glad to carry on.
The other one I thought you'd recognize is the fan fiction inmate.
Yeah, the fan fiction inmate I recognize. Like I don't know her name, but I can pick out her other characters.
Laura Bailey?
No, it's not.
No, it's not Laura Bailey.
Oh.
No, that one's Gray. I can never think of how to pronounce her last name. It's like Ducell. Anyway, she voices Daphne, Scooby-Doo. That's probably like her biggest thing, maybe. Vicky in Fairly Odd Parents.
Okay, notable roles.
A lot of things. Yeah, a lot of things.
I think she's Azula as well.
Maybe?
Yeah, I think that would be where I would know her from, Azula. Because she definitely has a bit of the Azula. At least if it's not her, she has a very...
Yes. Yeah, sorry. Avatar, yeah.
Yeah. I thought what was kind of a funny line is when we are kind of skipping ahead where she's getting sent off to camp and they're outside the house. I thought it was kind of funny that so you need to learn to appreciate good public radio, and that's why I asked where when this takes place because she's walking around with a smartphone, and I'm like, I don't think her parents are old enough to know that public radio is good, was good. It was a funny line. It got a funny haha out of me, and then I thought about the world building. I'm like, oh God, no, please no.
You got to listen to the Farmer's Almanac. I tell you, it's very entertaining.
Yeah, I think I put
Fan
it.
of X-1.
Yeah, I put in my notes. I put in my notes. The parents think public radio is still appreciated. Okay, show. Parents aren't 60 or up. This is a bit of a problem.
Well, the mom.
The mom. This is not how generational differentiation works.
Yeah, it was
Maybe,
obviously that
well,
a joke.
Yeah. No, like I said,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
definitely a
joke.
joke, which is why I'm letting it go. It's meant for laughs from the audience, but the problem is in world it's treated seriously.
Do you think it's more also working of like a more tolerable, accepting weirdness for Luz to do? That kind
Listening
of
to the
grinds her
radio?
more in reality, but still keeping a weird niche to not fully change her from a parent's perspective?
I don't think so.
I don't
Like, oh, that's weird, but at least it's grounded in reality.
She didn't really phrase it as being weird, though.
Yeah, she phrased it as normal, which is why I would agree, Springs, but her phrasing of it provides different context.
Okay, I just saw it as like an example she gave to Luz, but
she evidently likes editing animated music videos and reading fantasy books with convoluted backstories. I can vibe with that. At least I can relate to those things.
oh yeah, I'm
Figured
sure
you
you
would.
can. Yeah, she's not gonna let you down.
Right?
Nice one.
Thanks. I'm okay with the owl being quiet. Rummaging through the trash. The owl being quiet. The trash being quiet is where I have a little problem.
I have an issue for her throwing the book away to begin with. It was pretty much unprompted. The mom didn't ask her to throw the book away, so why would she throw it away if she cares about it?
Well, I mean, she's showing her mom that she's taking in her words of growing up. I'm not against her throwing it away just to grab it when she leaves.
Yeah.
She's throwing her
She's
mom.
planning
She's
to get
listening,
it back.
but she's listening.
I mean, obviously, I took it as a much more devicey thing, because if she was asked to get rid of it, that would have been one thing, but she volunteers it away, and obviously this just allows the plot to happen. So I took it as
I would have issues with the mom if she said throw that away.
I'd have more issues if she turned to the trash and saw the owl with it, and we didn't get to see her go back to get the book.
I mean, you'd be right. I'd have issues with those too.
It just seems like it was a ploy for the mom to see the action of moving on, when in fact it was just like
A ploy
to get the mom out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that. The owl, I had several issues with.
Being the fact that it's technically an inanimate object animated to an owl.
Well, that just gets into magic stuff, which
Yeah.
they don't really have many rules in this yet as of the pilot for magic.
Like I said, I'm just more. That was more me throwing out something for the book itself, because I had mixed feelings about it. But if you guys think that's in character for her to do just to get as a ploy to get away from her mom, I'm okay with it. Then
I think it's
I don't have a hard
totally
I don't have a hard line on that one. There are things I do have hard lines in this show about, but that ain't it.
I will say, being my third rewatch of this pilot, there's only one bit of magic I noticed in continuity, I guess, with the other episodes that stood out to me as something that was not right.
Okay, is that something you're holding on to or saying no?
Well, I don't know, because it works totally fine in this episode, but compared to everything else, it doesn't.
If you got inside knowledge, feel free to.
Yeah, I'll bring it up later when we get there.
Okay.
So, but it's the only there's only one bit that stood out in form of magic.
Yeah. At about the 2 minute and 30 second mark, I was kind of really annoyed with Luz. I mean, because they hammer home the I'm too different archetype, who has no sense of her reality and stuff like that. And this was followed by the plot kicking in because an owl can either teleport or be stealthily silent through trash. Um, I pretty much wrote at the 2 minute 30 second mark. Good grief.
Oh, that's funny. I also in my notes have a 2 minute 30 second mark note that follows. Ooh, an owl. And where does it go? Where is it going? A house.
But it's the title, everybody.
So if it's Ida's plan to send out owls to retrieve human items, why is she sending an owl out of this shack in the middle of a neighborhood? Well, I mean, this looks like the woods to me, but
presumably that owl is much stronger than it looks because there's fucking giant cabinets back there in her tent.
I could answer that, but I won't.
But there's an answer to it?
There is an answer to that.
Okay, so this
why
it's
it's in that
just
house.
not in the pilot? Okay.
No. I mean, it's
as long as there's an answer.
It shows that it's like connected, but there's a reason of the connection, I guess.
Yeah. So. All right. And like I said, we can only glean so much for it being a pilot episode, so I'm not gonna be stickler about that specifically. Yeah.
Connected to the two realms or to Luz?
Is the what connected?
The reason of the shack, is it connected to the two realms, the two worlds, or connected to Luz?
The two worlds.
Okay.
It's not like, oh, this is my grandpa's old house. No.
I'm talking about the reasoning of why the portal needs to be there. Is it?
Oh, it's
a world thing or a character thing?
It's the door thing.
Works like the wardrobe in Narnia.
Yeah. You picked up on that on the title of this episode?
Yeah. Funny enough, I did smirk at the title of this episode. I like it better than I do all of the Ahsoka show titles. All they are is references to better media. That sort of thing typically bothers me. It didn't bother me as much for this because, unlike the Ahsoka show, I think the show actually has a foundation, despite having lots of character issues with it.
I just thought this was very punny of a reference.
Yeah.
It being an hourhouse.
And there's definitely lines to cross though when it comes to that. I'll have to share with you some of the Ahsoka title names off the podcast to get your reaction from them.
Okay.
Could be a recap.
Could be a recap thing.
This is about the time where I have animation issues.
Ooh.
Yeah. So predominantly throughout this entire episode, the characters themselves don't cast shadows onto the ground, which can cause placement issues in terms of depth. The most apparent being the owl flying into the shack. Looks awful.
Oh, just the PNG
it looks like
going
they had
across the screen. Yeah.
They just shrink the PNG, and because there's no shadow casted on the ground, it makes it very obvious that's what's happening, and not an actual object flying in the space. And I'm like, okay, so they don't cast any shadows anywhere. It's an interesting choice because it causes issues like that, but whatever. As long as they stick to it. They didn't. She casts a shadow when she peeks out of the tent. I put a timestamp for that. 2:55.
Yeah.
So they could do casted shadows and chose not to for some reason. So what do you think, Sprinks? Because you brought up shadows and lighting before. So.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's on could be budget saving or time saving. However, it's interesting because there's also bits of this episode that, like the first part with Azula, something's up with that animation to me. It's not just like the wind blowing of like the hair on the robe. Thank you, Azura. Something's there. I don't know if it's like a frame rate or added frames of animation, something. It happens again in this episode when I think they're fighting the warden. It has that to it. So I don't know if it's just that's an set action like choice of animation, but I guess I can go this like I'm comparing it to the shadowing thing where it's like it's not all that, but when it's there, it's apparent. So like the owl being shrunken into the door you're explaining, definitely apparent. Wasn't that much of an issue to me because I saw it as the owl was flying and not walking up the steps. But then again, the bag would have actually had more gravity to it if it was in the air rather than being dragged on the ground. So I'm middle of the road with it because there is some lighting choices of shadowing I really do like in this. And then there's parts where it's just not apparent at all, which is not good.
You labeled your Castlevania stuff middle of the road, right? Because obviously when you talked about shadows in animation,
You
my thought
saw
was
them
sort
as
of that.
negative.
Oh, I
Yeah.
saw it with the candlelight negative.
Yeah, but so then
Which-
the owl shadow on the ground being a negative, right? Because it's not there.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm
when
just
they show that
I'm
they
just-
do shadowing.
Yeah, I'm not bringing that up to bash you or anything. I just wanted to keep it consistent within my mind.
Yeah. No, like with what Crimson just said, if there was no shadows whatsoever, then they just don't have it. But then they have self-choice of when to and when not to,
Yeah, they make a
which
deliberate
makes it
choice.
when they
of-
don't
Yeah.
stands out worse.
I have some issues with the Owl Lady's shop. I can dive right into that, or does someone else want to go? Got anything before that?
No, that works for me.
All right. So we see her going through a bunch of junk that's been taken. She throwaways a phone, but for some reason kept a TV. That to me is an inconsistency with how her what even if she doesn't understand how these objects work. That to me is an inconsistency because clearly she found a TV interesting enough. Why wouldn't a phone be interesting enough? I think I can buy a few of the other things that she throws away. I have questions about the shiny thing because it would entice other people, and there's a glowing box that she throws away. Uh, I have a we introduced her as a personality. She doesn't know much about human stuff, but there's already inconsistencies that are introduced with this. And I'm gonna be kind of a stickler over the phone and TV thing because those are similar enough to where she would have kept it just purely out of interest. Because she didn't know the TV could turn on and show things, so the phone would just be in the same vein of it.
Just another Black Mirror, but
Yeah.
smaller.
That's my issue with why she kept the TV is they have mirrors in this universe, in this world. We see a mirror in the owl house.
Yeah.
So the TV is not special if it just reflects the person because they have mirrors.
I assume she
So-
just kept it because it's human junk, and human junk is interesting to people. But I'm in agreement with that. Like, I would have been. I'm fine with. I would have been. I'm not fine with her throwing the phone away because she specifically kept the TV. That was interesting enough for her to hold on to.
Yeah, and I've never seen a TV with batteries that go on the top of it.
Funny enough, I have. They're
I've only seen them go on the bottom.
yeah.
Like that.
There, it's the top ones are. I will openly admit are much rarer. So I will chalk that up to a convenience. That it just happens to be that. But yeah, I've seen them. So Owl Lady, very quirky, into human stuff. I just kind of wish there would be some consistency with what she kept and why. Because she just finds the eyes and just like, this is cool, and I'm like, okay, that works. But I was
But she's
confused.
quirky.
Yeah, it works, but it was confused because of the whole phone and TV thing. So that's a minor nitpick, but it is an inconsistency that we get right off the bat with her.
Also,
I've been
I know
thinking
it's
it yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've been thinking it over. I think I'm in agreement with Ryder that the phone doesn't make sense because it would be the same function she uses the TV for, just smaller. So that's fine.
It's mobile. Yeah.
Or fine that like agreeing with him that she got rid of it and that doesn't make sense. A lot of them are just oddities that she doesn't know, but then again, an instance of like a mirror, which Crimson, I believe you brought up, like they know what a mirror is here. I think it's because, I mean, I'd be fascinated in a mirror from another realm. It's like, oh, this is a Blogschnob mirror. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I don't know what it does. What's the difference? Like, it's a fascination. But I think anything of magic or what makes sense to me is like the goblet that's glowing. I don't know where that was in the human world, but just being like, yeah, junk, because it's like magic and monsters and everything around. There's probably dozens of those that she sees in different forms.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the ring or the chalice, other than Luce must live in a pretty loaded neighborhood to have people with those possessions, or the owls traveling to museums or something. That was my thing on those items.
National Treasure 3, find the fucking owl.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently last week Ida sold the page 47 to someone.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far with my criticism for Ida, in the sense of like why would mirrors interest them? I think you're kind of, like I said, I think it could justify her interest in a strange TV looking thing, but again, that just kind of brings it back to the inconsistency with the phone.
It could also bring up how many phones has she seen.
None.
Oh, they're
by,
everywhere.
None by what we
I'm
see,
sure.
what we can see in the tent and scattered around her little shop. Because then she has none in her possession, so she either
It doesn't seem like anything's duplicated. There isn't two of something.
Yeah, which interesting business. She's kind of like she's running an antiquity shop almost, I suppose.
An oddity store.
Yeah. And then Luz shows her how to work the TV, which makes sense. I'm okay with that.
It's amazing they have signal here.
Yeah, that's the one that's the issue.
Yeah.
There's no player in that TV, so it's not like it's a VHS or anything. It's just a TV.
Legitimately, the best idea I could think for that right now is that because there's a portal nearby. So it's getting signal through that.
But didn't the door close before the TV?
The door's closed, but the door's still present. It hasn't been folded.
That would be the only justification for it. I thought it was weird as well, but I'm like, okay, there is a way to explain it or infer. I'm not gonna worry too much about that. So I labeled down as personally bothersome, but
ooh,
no, I'm looking at back.
Interesting.
It did fold and close. It was folded and closed. She ran out the back of the tent.
Oh, so you mean the portal's like completely gone?
Portal's gone.
Oh, yeah. If it is completely gone, then it is a problem. But
it's all folded before the TV.
Yeah, I don't.
Gotcha. I'm like, is this a before we go instance kind of thing? To me, because the whole kiss situation we had, where like the first one not good, but the second one good, but it's because of the first one. I'm seeing this with like the reception on the TV, where it's the first one's not good, but because we see it here, the phone later is fine.
I think they're both bad.
I don't.
But I see the parallel you're trying to make.
I see the parallel you're trying to make. It might be inverted. I think the first one's. If the first one's not an issue because it's near the portal, then the second one is definitely an issue because they're not near a portal, as far as we know. In the pilot.
Yeah, well, she had it folded, right, in the owl house, the folded portal. She had that with her.
I mean, it was near her pretty much at all times.
So the portal would still be near the phone, but it would still be closed. So we want to go with the proximity idea.
Yeah, I guess it really depends on how the magic system of this place works. I can't really tell much off the first episode.
I can kind of go with one thought of something with the TV, which is the front just has a single button and not like knobs or anything to change channels or situations, or not. I mean, just like channel change or volume control. It's just a single button, which makes me think it could just be a toy, and it's only designed to show that one thing. with batteries, so no signal would be needed.
I
And it
don't
just
know.
shows one workout video
Yeah,
as a toy. I don't know. That seems.
I'm just
I like where you're going with trying to fix it, but I don't think that's feasible.
I think it's got knobs and stuff on the side. So there's a side shot where Luz is either handing it back or taking it from Etta, and you can see knobs on the side of it.
okay. Never mind then.
Yeah. So Etta's a wanted person, and she set up shop in the middle of town.
Yeah, that's true. But she's so confident in her ability to escape because she's done it so many times.
I was gonna have an issue, but she could pack up quickly. I'm I still have mixed feelings about it because why she just happened to get caught now when not much earlier. Because it looks like she set up shop there regularly. The whole tent is full of her junk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well,
If she, it makes sense there would be a guard around at all times then. If they know this is, well, that is if they know this is where she sets up.
it's
But it
also
kinda
like the
plays it off with
fairgrounds,
guards
dude.
that this is the first time.
You'd think there'd be got at least some security around this place for black market stuff.
Well, it seems that there is. It's just,
Yeah.
this is the first time they've noticed this is where she is.
Yeah, I don't know if it's bad. Like I said, I'm just noting it down because like I would have issues if she couldn't get away quickly, but obviously she can pack up all her stuff really fast, so she's used to at least being chased and stuff like that.
You bet
Yeah.
she can't train her owl to steal from her own people or something.
Well, that doesn't interest her.
Instead of
Evidently.
stealing stuff from a different realm. I mean, she's stealing items to sell for money.
Yeah, but they're specifically human items. That's why.
Draws in a crowd. I mean, just turning on the TV, people were paying just to like look at the TV.
Well, yeah, the point of a business like this is to make money. So why couldn't she train her owl to steal money instead of stealing objects?
Oh,
I'm not
I
saying
see.
Earth money.
Oh, I see what you
because
mean.
that would be useless here.
Yeah, you
I'm
mean
saying
just
in this
thievery.
world,
Yeah.
she's already stealing from a different world. She's already perceived as a bad guy. Why not just train the owl to steal gems or gold or whatever the currency is here? I forgot what they called it. But
Could be easier to be detected in magic of this world versus human, where it's unusual and uncommon to be found. It could be like a glitch in the security system, or
she's using magic here.
I know, but in a world of
owl,
magic,
the owl is sentient in this world. What would be detected otherwise?
I'm just thinking if there are more witches than just Ida, and more quote unquote owls than just that one. So I think there's precautions and things already set up for instances such as that in this world.
Are you assuming that, or is that set up in the season?
There are other witches and there are other staffs of animals in the world.
Okay, but the securities thing you're talking about, is that a headcanon or is that something set up?
I can't remember. I think there's an instance where another one does get by somewhere, but one gets caught because they become sentient and kind of do their own thing. It's a real 50-50. There are security measures in places, I'll say. But it doesn't seem there's any at the fairgrounds rather than guards.
Okay.
But it's not Ida's the only witch and only her owl can do, like, it's not they don't have
Exclusive
experience
rights.
or, yeah.
Okay.
Can we talk about the bounty on her?
Sure.
1 quadrillion currency, because we don't know we don't know how
Yeah.
much that equates in their currency, but that's
Is
a
that
big
1
number.
mil? Is that
1 quadrillion.
a
I
candy
think in
bar?
any currency is a lot. I
Especially if
wouldn't
you pay
know
that.
if that
Especially if
equals
you
a
pay that.
billion or a million.
Yeah,
or
especially if you
anything
have
here.
to pay that physically, because I'm assuming they don't have a digital currency system in this world.
Yeah.
That is a lot. That is a. That is a. It makes sense why her bounty would be high, but I have no idea how they plan to pay it out.
You could buy a country with that.
For all we know.
In human world.
Yeah.
They could also just have bills that are that big.
Let's not get too crazy.
Ooh.
Quadrillion's a
Oh,
large
let's not
number.
get too crazy. What if they just
Yeah.
have 10 bills?
We're gonna
You'd
have
Maybe
to
they don't have a
have-
quadrillion dollar bill, but
then if that's the case, we're gonna approach an economic system that's worse than J.K. is in Harry Potter.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah,
I'm
the
just saying, I
the
don't
TV was 100 currency. Someone said, "I'll take it for 100 currency." I don't know what it's called. So we can't just say that as a reasonable number, $100 for a magical item, and then say, "Oh, well, a quadrillion is reasonable as well." that's not on the same level.
Even if she is supposed to be the most wanted person from the Conformatorium, that is just, it's absurd. It borders on absurdity, even though it's obviously for a joke.
sure. I'm trying to, like, she doesn't get turned in, but I'm trying to think of like a joke where she does get turned in and they're like, oh, I'm here for the reward. And, you know, they answer back, oh, well, it was just that high to get people's attentions and bounty hunters. So there's actually not that. We don't have that.
That would
Yeah,
be cool.
get rid of 6 of those zeros.
That would be cool, but there's not even a line or joke about that in the script.
No, she's never turned in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Crimson, with your security thing of, back to your original thing of stealing just currency in this world, there are things around a set place of security measures.
Okay.
That's why I want what the human world is like. Is that owl really doing all this? It's like, no way an owl can do that. That must be just like a glitch in the system or something. For a human perspective.
I mean, they could also think it's a trained owl.
I guess so.
Crazy. If they saw the owl turn into a wooden staff, then yeah, they'd be like, "Whoa, what's
Yeah.
going on here?" Which I did like that. That was cool.
I am in
Twisting it
agreement.
into the staff.
I did have that as 3 minutes 10 seconds.
That was good. Yes, I agree. There's very cool little niche. The owl becoming a part of the
I find it believable of how quick pace the situation goes. Of New World, icebreaker with Ida kind of thing. A crowd gathers, guard shows up, clean up and running.
Yeah. Don't forget they stuck in a quote unquote bonding thing between Edda and Luz.
Lose, like loser. It's easy
Yes.
to remember that way.
Or loose.
Luz.
I can't hold on.
I have opinions. I don't know if loser is what I would use to describe her. I wrote down in my notes. It's funny enough. I wrote down in my notes. Conformatorium. Oh dear. I wonder what the message is supposed to be. Could it be that we have to embrace our unique differences or risk being terrible? That was literally what I wrote to my notes when I heard the name of the place.
Yeah.
And then they drop in a bit of world building as well on their flight to the house, which is the boiling house. Every myth humans have is caused by their world bleeding into ours or crossing over or whatever.
Exiled, like the giraffe.
Yeah, I tilted my head a little bit and thought about it. And like, I think I'm okay with that. I don't like it when writers feel the need to explain, like how all of Earth's mythologies, where all of Earth's mythologies come from, like from a particular like fantasy universe. But I think that's more subjective than objective.
Oh.
Yeah, I would say that's more subjective.
Yeah.
Is that like a problem you have with Monsters Inc? Because they do that with Abominable Snowman.
Yeah, I do. I said that I think it's a subjective issue more than an objective one. I don't like it when they try to justify. This is where all of this fantasy world is where all of human mythology comes from. And I just kind of like press X to doubt. Because usually when I hear that, I'm just like, that's usually just a kind of hand waving away a bunch of like. The hand waves away all the mythologies that we've created as people. So, as a culture of species. So that's why I take personal issue with that. I thought about it. I think I don't think they needed to explain it, which is what bothered me about it. Like we're here, they don't necessarily need to explain that away. I did like the
They didn't
Griffin
need
Echo.
to, but I don't have a problem with being there. It doesn't affect the story in any meaningful way.
It's important in the sense they're hoping to ground you. I know why it's there, or like they're trying to introduce you to the world as a concept. I think I just personally dislike it. I don't have any objective issues with it. And I do like the Echo with the Griffin. Like she gets to see a Griffin, like in real time with its spider breath.
Pigeon head and all.
Yeah, that just shows that this version of Earth, like this world, that is their Griffin in mythology books.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wrong. Unless they have different species of Griffin here, which would be portrayed differently as well.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Because if all these creatures are natural creatures, they would have subspecies and different variants and all that. So,
getting into complicated biology.
Yeah.
Now to get a joke that I think is funny subjectively, but objectively bad. The shaking of the house for the Demon King.
Yep, I had that written down.
Unless he's much denser than he looks, which he's not, because Luz just picks him up.
Because they don't keep up with it.
Because Luz just picks him up immediately.
He's not.
Yeah. The entire house shakes when he comes downstairs. And, see the shadow part of the joke I really like. The shadow part of the joke is classic, where the shadow's super big and he's super small when he walks around the corner. They should have just kept that, but they should have cut out the house shaking.
Yeah, I went back and watched it because I was like, once it was revealed, I'm like, okay, was it just a shaky camera for the audience or did they react? And I rewinded it. Okay, yeah, the house has little flakes coming off the ceiling. She's looking up and around for the shaking. So, yeah, that was the same issue. Once again, they're sacrificing the world building for jokes, which is pretty common in cartoons, but will be pointed out.
I'm in agreement. The shaking was just for the joke. I don't think King can actually do that.
Well, the fact that they reacted implies he did. For some reason.
The Demon King is cute. He's a cute doggo, if that's what he is.
Oh yeah, just a little outsource.
The best character.
Which I had the guard that was chasing them when they get away, and he's just like yelling at himself. That's just Grunkle Stan under that mask.
She got away with it.
Yeah.
She got away.
Yep.
Welcome to the Mystery Shack. I don't have the gravel or the old man this.
At 7:50 in the show, so I guess right when they get there, Ida says this is the Owl House. So roll credits. Sinister's clapping in the corner. Yay!
Yep. Spine tingled at the moment.
He's getting very annoyed wherever he is because he knows.
Oh yeah.
The door. Oh shoot! I didn't know what was the name of it. Hootie. Why? I don't get it. She could have just said the password, and he opens up and she goes in. We don't have time for a password while doing all this hijinks, which is longer than giving a password.
He is a jerk. And also introduces Hootie.
Is Hootie that consistent for the rest of the show out of curiosity?
Yes.
Okay.
this is the one bit of magic that didn't make sense to me rewatching. Going into Hootie's mouth doesn't enter the house.
Like they just open the door traditionally going forward.
Yeah. Hootie's mouth opening, they probably would have gone to Hootie's stomach. It's not a portal to get into the house. They don't ever use that again. And I think that's a problem later on because there are instances where they want to get back and can't get back with Hootie with them. And if they could just get swallowed by him to get back, that would have...
Is Hootie always on this door? Or
Nope.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. I was like, if Hootie is the door, then maybe there's some workaround. But if Hootie can just leave, then yeah.
Ooh, yeah,
Fair enough.
That's an issue.
I'll take you at your word for future issues with it.
Yeah. Again, third rewatch, that's the one thing that stood out to me. I was like, they don't ever do that again. I did really like, before King comes down and Ida lights all the fire, the mural kind of above Luz when it pans down on her, the lighting on her like the highlights in her hair and shoulders matches that of the lighting above her. That I did like. And it wasn't just, darkening or lighting shadows.
Yeah, they added highlights from the light source.
Yeah, I also quite liked the lighting in that scene. I think their interaction hit this house is kind of the introduction that we have with the Demon King. I'm just gonna refer to him as that. And
yeah, you're close. It's just King.
Yeah. Okay. It's just King.
Yeah.
Okay. Between King and Etta, I kind of like their found family aspect they have going on. I also like the fact that Luz is just kind of enthralled with him immediately, and he gets really aggravated and annoyed by it.
He physically assaults him. If you want to extrapolate it that way.
No.
Clearly unwanted touches. Who is this monster?
It's pretty funny.
It's funny. It's in a world full of monsters and humans aren't here. That's exactly it. Again, Monsters Inc. connection, where Boo is the monster.
Ew.
I'm fine with King not showing a voice or a mouth movement, kind of like the Gildersnake earlier, because I believe he has a Cubone situation where he's wearing a skull.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it.
Yeah. I forgot. Does his little fangs that hang off his nose, do those move when he speaks?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a big issue with that either. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
I like the made up backstory they make up for King's crown.
Well, it's not entirely made up.
There is a crown.
There is a crown.
Yeah.
But I like the
That did
backstory
get taken by the warden. So
yeah, it's an exaggerated backstory. They just embellished.
yeah,
It's a legend.
It's a legend. They just embellished to absurd degrees. One thing I think it was kind of important for Luz to kind of acknowledge that she was being manipulated / coerced into helping.
Do I have a choice? No.
I'm happy that they at least acknowledge it. Because she just kind of goes with the flow with them, from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
I can kind of go with that because she's not exactly in harm's way. She's not actually getting hurt, and it's as close as an escape into her book that she later kind of recognizes that she can be. So I think it's also a slight comfort away from the summer school ideal from her mom.
Yes.
I don't know if she's thinking about the summer school at this point.
Not at this point. She's thinking about just getting back because she doesn't want to worry her mom. And so that's why she brokers the deal.
Yeah. Like, hey, I think if I got in a situation much like this, I'd be fine with it. Which I guess an example would be Harry Potter. If I got dropped in, Harry Potter world, cool. If I got dropped in Resident Evil 4 Spain, probably not cool. Like,
So
there are
you would
situations where
leave your friends and family, huh? I guess I know where we lie, writer. You ditch us for a fantasy world any day of the week.
If an owl's running away with my phone, going after my phone.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I don't.
if
I
you
don't.
had
No,
a
I don't.
choice to come back,
Then
you decline it.
I don't have any issue with.
Oh, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I don't have any issue with her getting into the world. My issue is my issue. I guess that I'm hinting at is the. I'm surprised her relationship with Etta is not filled with more questions, or
Not yet, anyway.
not yet. But it's very much a. How best to describe it? It's almost like it's too smooth. It feels very go with the flowy. Especially since they manipulate her to coming with them, even though she has to broker a deal. The deal ultimately, I'm fine with her agreeing because this is how she's planning on getting back. But I guess my issue with it is that it just seems too smooth. Because
Be a random stranger.
Yeah, Ada also accepts this ready willingly, even though she was, Luz was helpful with her, at least in terms of the business with over the TV.
Well, I can believe. I mean, going with episode 1, so not thinking later. I can go with Ida knows the potential of humans and how like weak, scrawny, and unmagic, buggle-born they are, and not a threat. But Luz has absolutely no concept of what Ida is capable of as a witch.
Yeah.
Well, we passed it, but I'll jump back a little bit. A comment that I just did not like at all was that's a weird comment for a human to say. I'm like, really? Does she look human? You don't have to see the ears to know.
Oh yeah, I know what you're
She's
talking
not
about.
human. She sees all the monsters in this marketplace. I don't know.
Okay,
Maybe she's not human.
Yeah, that's an issue.
For the smoothness of their relationship, I'm just picturing. Obviously, it's for character design purposes, but like, if Ida looked like the warden, but the same personality, would the story still progress the same way? No. So it's just they try to set up a lot of dominoes to try to make it smooth, but I'm with Ryder where it feels unrealistically smooth.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing it's not smooth. I don't see it a problem though, assuming that Ida was human, because she's the only human-like looking monster around. So a comfortable assumption for one. Yeah, but until the reveal of ear. I mean, same mistake can be made for an elf.
I mean, her skin color is not a human skin color, unless she's albino. But she didn't have. Do you need to look at her again? She's not just normal white. She's albino white. No, she's albino white, but didn't have the eyes and other features that albinos have. Clearly not human. Alaskan.
I'm not buying it. I think it's passable.
No,
well, of course you think it is, but it's not.
It's not passable, Springs. I know what you're going for. It's not passable. She is humanoid. That's pretty much the closest you're going to get out of me, I suppose.
Because of just how pale she is?
It's not a human skin tone. Unless you're going with the albino approach, which she has glowing yellow eyes, which albinos don't have.
Contacts.
You're really stretching for this. It's believable.
I'm not stretching. If someone dressed up as Ida for a convention, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that's not human." What are you talking about?
Fangs.
Yeah, do you know how many people just wear fangs?
Oh my gosh.
It's a cosmetic.
Come on, man. Let's be realistic here.
Actually, she has one fang too, just one tooth.
Yeah. See, Springs, you're also forgetting she's in a marketplace with a bunch of other monsters.
So
I'm
much
not saying
context
that it
clues
wouldn't.
that she's not human.
Luz is a 14-year-old to assume the one bipedal-looking humanoid is human. Totally fine until revealed. Eden didn't go along with it. She immediately, just took her headband off and it's like, hey, look at my ears.
My
I think
issue
it's
isn't
an immediate
Ida
comfort.
revealing herself. There shouldn't have been a reveal. She would have already recognized her as not human.
We're gonna, because then this would, okay. So there are two issues. There are two potential issues here. There's the issue of either her not recognizing Ida as human, or we're damaging the line from earlier of how much she enjoys reading fantasy. Because she either figures out that Ida's not human, obviously, or it was a lie earlier that she didn't read in fantasy. Because all she does, apparently, that we know of, she gave these character traits. She loves to read fantasy novels.
Are witches human?
Well, this one clearly isn't.
This one isn't. No, she brings it up. She isn't.
And she has the accurate griffin, so I would imagine she would know this world's accurate witches.
Trying to think of another example. Is the Wicked Witch of the West human?
We don't know. We don't know if anyone in Oz is human except for Oz and Dorothy.
Okay.
We're going with this universe.
I'm just going with other. If her book is the witch is human.
Well, her book is this version's Griffin, so it's safe to assume her book is also this version of a witch.
Well, then that's a lot of just not knowing. If the book just says witch.
I wouldn't know because I don't know if the book goes beyond the first episode.
Yeah, that's the thing of the book. I guess with that example, the Wicked Witch of the West is the same situation. Like it's not said or identified, so not fully sure.
Yeah, we don't even really know what Oz is. We talked about it being potentially a dream world. So.
Yeah, and Wizard of Oz. Oz the Great and Powerful with James Franco.
I haven't seen it.
That's got a little more explanation of things. But anyway, I have not been convinced. I'm still like, the assumption that she could be human is valid to me.
What would you need to be convinced?
That she wasn't human?
What would be required for her to be like, oh, this is obviously not human?
Give her another eye.
It's passable.
Remove her nose.
Give her a crocodile mouth. I mean,
give her a crocodile mouth. Yeah.
Give her a Voldemort face without a nose. Really?
Yeah.
Just because she's pale.
Hey, there's people with no noses, Spring.
Crimson's so, the hill because she's pale.
There's also Triclopses in real life too, so that's not fair either. She could be human.
Remove an eye. Cyclops.
There are Cyclops humans. They usually don't live very long, but they exist. If it's possible. I'm sorry if I'm going at you real hard for this.
No, you're not. I think you're actually defending me here of just the differences that
you can't make the exception the rule, is what my point is.
What do you mean? She could have webbed hands. Humans have webbed hands. They could.
You're blurring the point of what a creature is then. We also have humans who have tails.
You're dying. So you're dying hill here that to be identified that she's not human is her skin.
She has skin. She has fangs. She's got glowing yellow eyes. She's in a market full of monsters. Or
market full
creatures.
Of monsters. I'll give you as a point. Yeah.
That's enough context clues for the fantasy nerd to be like, this isn't human.
But she's standing selling human collectibles.
But she saw them getting rid of them, then she doesn't know how they work. So
she also sees her use magic, which humans don't use. I feel like there's so much.
Oh yeah, she does see the owl thing, doesn't she?
Oh, she sees the owl get turned. Yeah.
Yeah, which is magic.
That could be.
Okay.
Is that magic out of her? I mean, yes, it's magic out of Ida, yes. But on the viewpoint, is it magic of the owl?
That's not what we're talking about.
What do you mean? You just said
we're
the owl
talking about
turning.
Her perception of what Ida is. in Luz's eyes, that's magic. It doesn't matter if it is magic to Ida. It is magic to Luz's eyes, which would
yes, I'm agreeing with
compound.
that is yes magic, but is it the magic of the owl?
It
Could
could
the
be.
owl on its own be like, oh, I'm turning into a staff?
Could be, but
Because
all
it just
Luz,
got
but
screwed
all
on.
it could be, but all Luz sees is Ida turning the owl, so she could. It would be an easier presumption to assume it's Ida doing it, because Ida's the one with her hands
I'm
on
not
the
agreeing
owl.
with that. Could be either or.
No, it explicitly shows that Ida's the one turning the owl. The owl doesn't physically turn itself. If the owl physically turned itself, then it would be more 50-50. I'm going to be honest, the only issue I have with this is that's a weird thing for a human to say line. It was very forced.
It was.
Okie doke.
Where were we? Breaching the castle or the prison?
Yeah.
About to, yes. Ida tries to kill them first. Wait.
Conformatorium. Yeah, we're at the Conformatorium.
Yeah, to the Conformatorium. It's very rude of Ida to try to kill people that she just met. And King. It was not nice of her.
Oh, by dropping their platform?
Yeah, that was very rude of her.
Well, she's fine.
It shows how little Ida cares for her. And King,
yeah, we don't
apparently
really have a reason why she would cut it off.
Yeah.
She didn't get attacked and not distracted or something.
It's done for unnecessary tension, is what it does. But unfortunately, because it's an action based on the character of Ida, it damages Ida.
Yeah, I agree. There was no reason given.
Yeah, even if it was like even if it was like it's out of my spell range, Ida could have just flown up with them, just to make sure they got to decide.
I mean, yeah, she could have, but I think that just plays more to her of lack of feelings towards others. She's just confident in her own doing.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's still character damaging. I'm just saying it would have been better for the character if either the platform was stable the entire time or if Ida went up to help them.
Well, this whole thing was for her roommate King to get his crown, and if she didn't care enough to where she could have killed a human that she required, then it kind of contradicts her purpose of being here in the first place. It's being friend-oriented.
And she also knows that the crown isn't real, so they're here risking their lives for a paper crown. So that is like the opposite of selfish, in the sense of like she is here doing just a favor to a friend.
Unless you see that differently, Sprinks.
The platform thing, no. The knowing of the crown, yes.
Wait, you don't agree with the platform dropping?
That you think it's character damaging? Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. The knowing of the crown, of doing this all just to get a crown that doesn't have a thing just for King. Okay.
Okay, so you agree then that her being a good person is a character trait then?
At least towards her friend.
No, King's riding the platform too, so even if she didn't like Luz.
Wow. Making her pet happy? Sure.
Right.
Pet? She refers to him as a roommate, not a pet.
Yeah.
Also, devil's advocate. We don't know if that fall would kill or even hurt King, so I wouldn't have that as an example of him being on the platform with her as a cause for not doing that.
It's example enough because the first thing King does is grab onto Luz.
Well, yeah, he still wants to enter the building.
Yeah. It's still, this is still character damage.
He's on the farther end from the window.
Yeah.
So closest thing to grab would be Luz, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's a plummet.
It's done. Like I said, it's done for laughs, unnecessary tension. Still damages Ida because is to this point is shown to be caring, especially recontextualized. She's supposed to be caring about King, and it was unnecessary. I would remove this.
Just so we get levels, because damaging is a strong word. How damaging is damaging to a character? Is it a paper cut? Is it a
yeah.
slash?
Nitpick.
Oh, where am I putting this?
Yes,
where am I
because
putting
I
this?
don't want to build up expectations for what you're saying by damage.
Yeah. This would be a nitpick. It's not character assassinating, but we are approaching it because the lives were risked.
All right. That clears it up with me, because I agree. I see it more as a paper cut.
Yeah, it's not character assassinating. So no, it's more of a nitpicky paper cut. It's one of those things where it's like this could be easily fixed. It's one of the nicks that kind of it damages her character, just doesn't but it doesn't break her character.
I think it's been a while since you've started with a point.
Yeah, I'm like the smartest thing for me for that is to just refrain from any answers because of what I know about Ida, knowing the whole show. So,
Based off episode 1.
yeah. King comments when they do get through that cats don't do that, as in falling on their face because Luz falls on her face, and then immediately the first inmate calls her cat lady. That just told me that the cats are either from this world or people are so familiar with cats of human world.
So it's like the Codex
cats
Alaria cats, for all I know.
Or Egyptian mythology cat, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I read as well. Cats originated here. Because the ability to go to the human realm would have to be uncommon or rare for her items to be really worth anything. So I imagine her portal is pretty unique. So the knowledge of Earth animals would probably be pretty low. That didn't originate from you. At least going off the pilot, I don't know. Are there more portals in the future?
Not like what kind of portals?
The ability to go to Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
I like the little walking face with a long nose.
Okay. Yeah, that's voiced by Dana, the creator of the show. I believe she said that's like a caricature.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, it's a caricature. The reason I thought it was funny is because just based off the first episode, I'm like, could this actually be the summer camp and everything is just being made up in her mind? Just the way that she's phrasing things. The little face.
Yeah.
Like it gave me the theory, at least based off of the first episode, that this was all in her Luz's head.
Yeah. A little face just give me.
Is this still on or is this canceled?
It's done. Season 3 was the end. I'm not quite sure if season 2 canceled it and they just used their own budget or whatever to do the last season, because I think season 3 is just 3 episodes.
Oh,
but I can't recall because they wanted to finish up the story.
Yeah. At least they got to do that. That's nice.
Yeah.
Not many shows can do that.
Yeah.
It's true. I think this is kind of where I had my big epiphany / things I needed to say about Luz as a character moment. So I'll just go to my freaking notes. I like the sentiment. Obviously, she's found out that all the weirdos are stuck in there for being different, which is a plus. Again, I like the idea, but we, as I said, kind of approached Falcon and Winter Soldier levels of misrepresenting ideas here, because Luz's eccentricity harms people, and the person she's empathizing with only writes fan fiction, which is very, very clearly different levels of eccentricity, I suppose. I'll limit that. So welcome to more writing with Professor Geeky Writer. So, as you know, actions speak to character. If, for example, you have two characters who dislike each other at when they meet face to face, I'm just gonna throw names out here, obviously, and pretend I didn't script this. Aragorn and Boromir. Um, but they still show their willingness to defend each other in later scenes in the show. That speaks to their characters as who they are morally. If you have Professor Alan Grant, who doesn't like kids but is still willing to endanger himself to protect them, that also speaks very highly to his character. If the writers want to portray as Luz as an outsider weirdo and have her empathetically reason with other weirds trapped in the prison, you really shouldn't show how her eccentricity harms people, because there's a categorical difference between Luz bringing snakes that physically attack people and someone writing fan fiction. Those aren't. That's a false equivalency, and that pretty much unraveled Luz a character for me in the first episode.
Yeah, and that's kind of gets to the point of the messaging in this that I didn't like, because it seemed like very childish. I know, weird to say for a kid's cartoon, but it didn't. It was, yeah, false equivalency. I'm like, okay, so what's weird? I don't know, somebody going out killing a raccoon and then posting it on someone's door. That's a weirdo thing to do. Doing that as a hobby, that's weird. Is that person under this umbrella? You gotta, even though the message of it's good to accept people, you gotta approach a topic like that with some sort of nuance. And I don't think this handled it with nuance whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the thematic messaging was really botched in terms of its delivery, and I think Luz is probably the victim of that in terms of her character work. Because I don't like the fact that they try to make her empathetic in the scene because of her introduction. It's contradictory. Um, I understand what they want to do with the message. It just fails to. It just lands flat based on the delivery of her actions thus far in the story.
Brinks, is this a message that is repeated, or is this more like this episode is this message, next episode probably has something else focused?
It, from what I recall, it's like very late on thick, the message of this episode, and the rest maybe very little messages here and there, but it's like all kind of backbone to this. So rather than starting very subtle things all throughout, and then like the second to final episode is like, this is what the big message is all about that you've been watching to, and it's like, oh, this is very like, this is the message, here's how it branches out.
So you're saying it gets more subtle as the show goes along?
He's saying it tampers off.
It tampers off,
They
other things
front-loaded.
pop in.
Okay.
Don't think they should have front loaded.
Yeah.
I think that was a great creative choice.
Unfortunately, I'm okay with front loading your messages, but I think it's the character inconsistency that really got to me with Luz, with regarding the delivery of the message that botches it. Because Luz's character I want to like, but there's too many inconsistencies in her character for me to like her. And the subjective part of me is I'm also a fan fiction writer. I don't want to be equated to someone who brings snakes to school that attack people. That's a subjective part. The objective part is this is a false equivalency.
I think a viewpoint that hasn't been brought up that's a possibility. I'm not full sure. Wasn't a fact I saw, but I don't know if this was a pitched pilot idea to Disney, and because of the messaging it got greenlit because it was present of like, clap our hands, oh, we understand, kids will understand, and then that greenlit it to be like, oh yeah, you get a whole season, which is why then it slowed down.
It could be
certainly an element.
A lot of pilots are reshot, re-edited, redone for the purposes of just simply being the pilot to that show. I don't disagree. That might be the idea behind it. They might have had an original idea, and the studio is like, no, you need to rework it to be like this. that's entirely possible. But working on based of what I have, this is what I've got. And unfortunately, it's just it once
Too much.
yeah, it. We start approaching character assassination with Luz in the first episode, and I'm glad to know that it smooths out for the rest of the show. But this is a very, very like big turn off point for a lot of people. Would be the first episode because a lot of people watch pilots to shows, and then they decide whether they're going
Get
to watch the rest
hooked.
of the show or not. You know. Um,
Yeah, it's the hook.
yeah. So that was the big thing I was building up to, Crimson. So sorry if I disappointed you, but
No, that's fine. I also had issues with this part. A different issue I had within this part as well was, well, maybe it's not an issue. Maybe it's just more of a talking point. Is she's built up to be this fantasy nerd, right? Someone you could believe does D&D. We don't know if she does D&D, but she's someone that would probably be open to doing something, a role-playing game like that.
like D&D, yeah.
Yes. And we're at least let on that she's fantasy focused. I would think she would be more nuanced in the thoughts of a different world. Not so much like Subaru and ReZero. He reads the universe very clearly. But in this, she sees the weirdos, they say what their issues are, and she's like,
oh, you're all
that's
like
not
me.
against the law. That's not against the law. I'm like, okay, well, you're in a different world. Maybe that is against the law. I don't know. Maybe put a little thought. It just could be adult me projecting on to that statement, but which is why I think it's more of a talking point. If you guys think it's dumb of her to say that or not, or out of character.
Springsall, I'll let you go first.
Say that again. What's out of character for her to say? You're thinking?
The fact that she assumed those aren't laws, like they said why they're locked up, and she said that's not against the law or that's not illegal or something along those lines. And I see her as fantasy focused, someone who could do role play stuff. So I think she would think in universe maybe it is illegal. It'd be better if she said, "Well, that's not right," which she does say that later with Ida. But the whole assuming it's not against the law thing just seemed not right to the type of character we have.
Yeah, I'll go with that because of all the events have occurred, even though it could be even within the span of an hour of how long she's been here. Sure, she could go with the flow of like all these things that aren't her world of Earth. But I'm kind of on the other end where it's like she's not used to everything going around, so she's still speaking her mind of her world of what she's used to. So I'm the 50-50 on it.
Okay.
This is the way you phrase this, Briggs. I just have to say, lucky they all speak English. I don't have an issue with it. I'm just pointing it out.
All right, we don't need any universal translators.
Yeah, we don't need any universal translators. I'm just pointing it out because I think it's one of my favorite tropes in fantasy. Everyone speaks English as common tongue. I just kind of laugh at it at this point. All right. To answer your question, Crimson, I think I'm leaning towards it more being a problem. Because they specifically make fantasy her interest in fantasy. I mean, we start out on an imaginary scenario of a book she's read for a book report at the beginning of the show to show her interest. That interest is then reinforced in her conversation with her mom. We're getting to it's kind of hammered home very quickly and early on that she's a huge fantasy nerd, which helps in her choice at the end of this episode as to why she chooses to stay. But I think she would be more cognizant of rules because when you're reading a bunch of fantasy books, the first thing you're going to realize is all the rules and different things that are applied to each universe that you read. So I'm leaning towards that definitely more of a problem. Because as you said, I think the simple fix is just that isn't right. You know, that's just her making just talking about more of it in a justice sense than a rule sense.
Gotcha. Ryder, you brought up something earlier that I just want to clarify to the audience of looking out for the little man just in case. Who are Aragorn and Boromir, and where are they from?
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to stay here for the 6 hour lecture, or do you want to stay here for the 20 minute slash 30 second one?
What property are they a part of?
Okay. I'll just throw it out there. Aragorn and Boromir are characters from Lord of the Rings. Professor Alan Grant is from Jurassic Park. I used them explicitly because I know that my two co-hosts know those characters intimately well and would understand the comparison I was trying to make with them. With regards to actions speaking to characters being a very, very important part of building your characters in a story. Um, and I used them again because you guys are familiar with them, and uh, I didn't, wanted to put them in a context next to Luz, which is kind of funny to do. Who also has taken actions in the story, but also how they explicitly are not supposed to speak to her character, but they do because they're in the show.
Wonderful, thank you. Just in case, it was a lot of names being spread out without reference to where they're from, so I figured there could be confusion if you're talking about authors or characters or titles of episodes or who knows.
Yeah, feel free. I will talk about my favorite properties any day of the week.
Well, yeah, it was just it wasn't so much of that. It was just a clarification to those who don't recognize any of the names you're saying.
No worries, no worries.
So I'll get to, now that we've been get introduced to Warden Wrath. That's Roger Craig Smith.
It's your boy.
Who, again, sounds just like Bruce Redfield. So Bruce Wayne and Chris Redfield.
And how do we feel about him being a warden?
Fine. He's got the voice for it. He's not doing Sonic. He's not doing Mirage from Apex. He's...
Yeah, it's true. It's different. Funny enough, all I could think of while watching the warden on screen, Springs, was I was thinking of Bilemon because of all his like plague doctor looking stuff.
Yeah. No, this is definitely something I can see in his head of a character.
Yeah, in terms of the warden, I like the design of him. I liked him up to a point, which I'm sure you guys can figure out what point that would be.
Is it when the mask comes off?
No, his face is pretty cool in the mask.
I mean, it
no,
is.
the girlfriend thing.
Oh, I'm like, his eyes don't line up with the eye holes of the mask.
No, not at all.
Shocker, Crimson doesn't like a romantic
love
gesture of.
Okay, that was just.
No, I'm kidding.
horrible.
I know exactly why you don't like it. It felt very tacked on as a character.
It was forced and blunt.
Yeah,
dude, I was like, of course they did this. Of course.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I like the design of him.
I already complimented the little one, the Dana. Yeah.
The nose.
The nose. The walking face. The nose.
Yeah.
Funny little rat character.
Little rat.
Yeah, her comments were giving me Bill Cipher of World of Illusion. She comments like the world is a triangle or something.
We will fight against our oppressors. I don't know.
Also, this world could be a triangle.
Could be.
This realm.
The Boylan Isles.
It could be.
Yeah.
Could be a triangle.
I like the lighting use inside the contraband area of this greenish hue for lighting.
You like green springs? I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Just another element. Hal Jordan Green Lantern, right?
Yeah, it's not just darkened shadows.
Yeah,
it's actually color too.
I think it's fitting. I just want to point out the shadows disappear of the characters again. It's
shadows for the ground.
Yeah, shadows on the ground. It works. I quite like the setting. It's eerie. It gives it that eerie sense of gives it an eerie sense for when it's revealed and Etta gets their head cut off.
Yeah, that's quite a jump.
Yeah, he just snuck up on him,
Yeah, I don't think the warden has good luck with his dates. To be honest, though, if this is how he introduces himself to people he likes, just cutting their heads off. I mean, like, what if they don't live through that? you know.
Well,
True.
maybe she's his first date.
I think
Oh,
the one subtlety.
it probably is because aren't the other wardens encouraging him, or the other guards like cheering him on?
Yeah.
Pick number 3, my lord.
I think a nice subtlety that they actually do have is when they land the broom outside the outhouse. Ida's hand remains on the broom, and she goes, "Oh, that happens sometimes." So we've seen parts of her disconnect, and she's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that's the slight help that being decapitated, she's okay, but it's still a good like just jump hint.
It's definitely a shock to the system for a first time viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they set it up with the hand.
And the warden's not a nice guy. He just destroys the Burger King crown. I mean, the Burger Queen crown. Whatever.
Yeah. Burger Queen, the Dairy King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dairy. I'd love to see that in here.
What about Larry King? Can we talk about Larry King?
Dairy World? No, Fairy World. Oh, darn it. I'm slightly surprised that the word expecto was able to be used.
They didn't finish it,
for
so
somewhat spellcasting.
They're getting away with it a little bit there.
Yeah. I'm like, it's not as bad as in like, I mean, it lines up as, is it? No. I was gonna say it lines up. It doesn't, like in Spider-Man 1 and the Sam Raimi one with Tobey Maguire when he's trying to shoot his web and he says Shazam.
Obey whip.
Does he?
It's like that's a DC. I think Shazam is one of the words he says trying to shoot a web.
I need to, to be fair, I haven't seen the Raimi trilogy in like a decade. I really need to go watch them again.
And I'm like, that's something that's real close to. You probably can't say that.
Shazam's also a word.
It is, but it's also a DC character.
Yeah. I mean, it goes for me. It just falls in line of Spider Pig from Into the Spider-Verse saying, "That's all, folks," and then Peter going, "Can you say that? I mean, legally."
Yeah. Well, that falls into Warner Brother property, but Sony Picture. So
yeah, I mean,
you're right. That is.
It's in the same vein of like that was pretty funny. I like it.
So yeah. I touched on it earlier, but at 1650 to 1656, the frame rate changes in the animation when they're like falling and the warden hits them. Did you guys catch that?
50.
Yeah, when they're on the broom and he hits them off the broom. It's just a little more fluid in the animation. And I think it just works with the action. I couldn't tell if I caught it when they escaped the warden and his arms turning, the big like walking things he's using coming towards the screen. I think that's normal. But
yeah, is this the we had a conversation off the podcast, Springs. Is this the show you talked about where they had only like a few episodes to wrap everything up, but it has a bunch of budget?
Yeah. There's a fight in the first episode of season 3 or something. That's a fight or something. That's just like really well done.
All right. Really well animated.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, really well animated for the scene.
Yeah.
I looked at it. Yeah, they certainly do play with the frame rates in terms of animation throughout the episode. Sometimes there's less, so it's much slower, but sometimes there are more frames to make it more fluid.
Yeah, that's kind of typical of modern animation styles. They tend to play around with frames a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it's not a complaint out of me.
Yeah, you're just pointing it out.
A praise. I like it because it sets kind of the different slight tone of the scene at hand. So like an action scene kind of slows down to show more of the hits or things coming across.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a purposeful usage when they use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with animation, every everything's important.
Yeah, that's true. Uh,
Little amusing substitution, because they talked about how the one's distracted because the nose is getting tormented instead of tortured.
yes. Is there?
But then the nose is okay later once
Yeah,
the
she just the nose just
hole
has
in
a
the
black
wall.
eye or whatever.
That could follow under one of Disney's rules of like words can't be used.
Oh yeah, definitely is.
Tormented and tortured are a little closer in the dictionary, so I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah, but I just know of the behind the scenes with Gravity Falls things when Alex Hirsch tried to get things by Disney and how he got things around when they told him he couldn't. Oh, I don't know if Dana for Owl House did the same or had instances like it.
Probably. I mean, that's what it seems like for a lot of animation studios under Disney these days.
I caught a slight error at 1809 to 1810. Warden Wrath, when Ida's on the ground and he comes up and we kind of see his left arm and it's in a fist. Immediately next shot, when he raises his hand, it's already turned into an axe. So there's no transformation animation of it changing.
I just want to point out.
Animation shortcut.
Yeah, animation shortcut. I just want to point out that flying in a straight line makes it really hard to push levers that are all the way pointed down to all the way up to open up cages.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's also the speed at which they're going.
Yeah, they do it immensely fast. They may as well just be like holding their hands out and trying to rip it out. I think that would have been made a little more sense. Yeah, they free everybody. Well, they free 3 people, and that constitutes everybody.
Yeah, so we have a geography issue, obviously, here. They got freed on the ground floor and not up in the tower that they had to fly up to.
Yeah. Unless we're just supposed to assume the warden chased them all the way downstairs. But geography issue.
Yeah.
I'm confused how that's an issue. What do you mean?
Well, their cells were really high up in the building.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the cells
now their cells are at the bottom.
Yeah, because when they lead them out to the bottom, pretty much, so they just kind of appear there. It's a geography issue.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have had time to run all the way down there while they were falling to the courtyard. So.
Okay. I don't see that as a geography issue. That's just a character teleportation.
Which can relate to geography. The fact that they have to teleport through the building.
Okay, I'm going with the bottom ground cells are not theirs.
Yes. So, okay, you have the same issue. You're just saying it's characters teleporting. That's fine.
Yeah, they just ran down that stairwell incredibly fast to be on the bottom floor.
Yeah, I'm fine with it either because it's still an issue.
There's an issue.
It makes sense that the door to leave is at the bottom floor, so it makes sense that that's the direction they went. But
yeah, obviously, it's just they teleported
too fast. Unless there was a ladder they like went down. I guess that's the only thing that kind of pass. If you
there's really nothing with regards to it. So either they teleport.
Is there a name for that? What is that?
A ladder?
When you're not walking down a ladder, but
you're sliding down a ladder.
You're sliding. Okay, yeah. If they slid down a ladder, I think they could make it fast enough.
We don't see ladders though. We see a lot of stairs.
No.
And we passed an issue I had earlier. Shoot. Yeah, how she bonks the warden on the head.
It just
with her nerd arms. I wrote that in caps and then quotations because that irritated me so much. She dents the top of his helmet.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a weak metal helmet.
She couldn't even lift.
She can't flip a lever.
Yeah, she can't even flip the lever. So no, that's an issue. I agree.
But she's able to knock this behemoth down to the ground. No, that was too much.
Yeah, especially since it takes everybody working together to beat him later on.
Oh, I hated that too. Yeah, especially since they kept the continuity of her with the levers because she uses
She gets
Ida's arm to lift it for her.
Well, they lift it together, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the
That's
fight
good.
with the weird. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a good touch of using Ida's hand because she needed it.
Mhm.
It wasn't just like, oh, she's on the broom because she's going fast. She can open them now.
Yeah.
She's got help.
I like that they kept that continuity, even though I have the minor issue of obviously they're flying in a straight line and they're flipping letters vertically.
Yes, extraordinarily quick.
We already talked about television. I don't know if I have any particular issues about the fight. I was just, all right, I guess we're wrapping up now.
Only slight nitpick I have is the convenient wind. After Luz gives her a little like, I'm the human.
Oh, so she can pose?
Yeah. The wind only happens at one instance when she's done.
And she's in an encircled wall.
Could be a downward draft, but
Perhaps I'm just salty about the warden because they built him up to be this cool bad guy, and then they have he's just a petty little boy looking for a girlfriend.
Petty,
and then
villain.
he just gets beaten up by these random people pushing him to the ground. It's so pathetic. It was so anticlimactic. He saw them coming to him and he didn't do anything. He just stood there and said, huh?
Also, all his guards disappeared too.
Plus that, yeah.
Yeah.
He's flailing his tentacles around, but they're not grabbing anything.
The guards are actually taking the stairs. The inmates teleported.
That's a shame to be the guards, I guess.
Yes. They nerfed the heck out of the warden for this, and I don't think they needed to.
I don't think they needed to either. But obviously the messaging is weirdos need to stick together, stronger together, what have you, whatever. do I sound as enthusiastic as I want to sound?
Well, also, I imagine she went for the kill with the firework thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Freaking psychopath.
Yeah.
I mean, if her mind of her book report was firing a rocket to kill something because its weakness is dying, and she had the rocket in her, the firework on her for the book report, yeah, I think in a situation like this, it was meant for death.
Yeah, and he was already incapacitated. He was tied up and everything. She just went to kill him.
Yeah, all I'm saying is Luz is evil, and I have an issue with this because they're clearly portraying her as a protagonist.
That is my biggest issue with her, is how hard they're pushing her to be a good person.
That's honestly that's what makes the contradiction so much worse in this opening episode. It's like I'm supposed to like you. You're the protagonist. Well, you're not supposed to like every protagonist. Obviously, everybody likes antagonists as other characters. I don't think everybody likes "quote unquote" the Joker from the Joker, but he's relatable.
I need your definition of like.
Oh, you love the character,
Enjoy.
but you don't want to be in the room with him.
I mean, like is very subjective. That is based.
Yeah, I say that is very subjective. I'm fine with it being that way. Anyway, that's my biggest issue with Luz as well. Crimson is that they really tried to make her the hero, and I don't think it worked.
I don't think it did either.
But I'm happy to know it improves. At least according to Springs, it does. So,
I think so. Yeah. Looking at the rest of my notes here, we already touched on the Boylan House having good cell reception, or just reception in general.
Yeah.
I do think it's sweet that she gives King a new crown.
Yes, from her doll.
Yeah.
Brinks, more for the rest of the show question. Is the phone still present? Does it die at one point?
Phone's still present.
Does it ever die?
I can't remember. I'm trying to think if there was a point where she charges it.
Okay.
I think it does die.
Because then they could do some good character stuff with a phone
Yeah,
dying like that.
Trying to remember. I think there's a point where she's trying to get a message out or something, and it dies on her.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Also, sorry. First.
I was gonna say, I know it's corny, but Lou's holding up her book at the mirror to put it down, and they're all in the positions. That's fine to me. That's just a silly little working Disney ending bit.
Yeah, I'm totally fine.
I don't have any issues with that either. It was like, yeah, that's cute. I get the point what they're trying to do, and I like that. I think she gets like the biggest smile when she realizes that I can live my fantasy dream here. It's very childlike. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Even if it's coming from a homicidal maniac.
Wow.
But that's a joke. That's a joke, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, she did try to kill somebody.
That's true. She did. But, obviously, that's not what the intended. It's just we're citing John Walker here from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Not what the writers intended. They gave it a complete. But
oh
boy. The book and the pamphlet or brochure that Ida gives her. Did I miss something? Wasn't that in her bag? She stole it in the beginning and it stayed in her bag. How did Ida get those items?
The book?
Yeah, she handed her the book and then the summer school booklet.
Oh, I see.
How did she get that in her possession?
Unless the brochure was in her book.
Took it.
Unless the brochure was specifically in her book, yeah, that's a bit of a problem because she hands them both back.
It was just left on a table. So she didn't necessarily have them or take them. It's just Luce just set them down. Did she set them down when she picked up King for the first time?
I think it just stayed in her backpack. I don't think we saw her take them out. But I don't remember distinctly on that.
I'm indifferent. Being that it was just on the table. I would definitely be agreeing with you. It's a bit maybe more than nitpick if Ida just like under her hair took them out.
All right, I played it back. She did place it on the table.
Luz did?
Oh, they kept continuity. Yeah, I just did.
Oh, okay.
They kept the continuity.
Oh, good for them.
Phew.
Yeah.
that was a whole point system on my scale there, so I'm glad that got clear. That's a joke.
So, how do we feel about Luz lying to her mom? I mean, not that she knows how to explain all this, but
no, I think it's within her character to do it.
Fine.
I still see it as dummy,
fantasy,
but I think it makes sense with her.
I think it makes sense because she can contact her mom. I think if she wasn't able to, she might start getting guilt to get back home faster.
Yeah, that could be something too.
I think
to clarify, I don't have an issue with it either. I'm just bringing it up in conversation.
Probing brains.
Yeah.
Feel bad for the mom, I guess.
And as long as she's back in 3 months, who cares, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess
she'll be back in 3 months, and she's not going to be changed.
No, that's true. Yeah, she'll go back to
be worse.
Bringing fireworks to people at school.
She'll be changed, but not in the way the mom wants.
No, she's going to get worse. Presumably. I haven't seen the show. No.
All right, that was my final point. Really, it's just their questions. So.
Okay. My last question was: is the owl house sentient because it blinks?
I mean, it could be something I did like, and I didn't mention in the beginning, was when she looked at the whole city or whatever, the kingdom, and a lot of the buildings look like creatures. I really liked the visual aesthetic of the kingdom there. And some of those buildings were alive, so I don't see why this one couldn't be as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a detail I don't know
yeah,
off the top of my head.
I don't
They
know
don't
if I.
explore that in the further episodes or anything.
I don't recall. Like they could, like it's still moving or something, but I don't know if they ever touch up that the house is alive.
Okay. When was the last time you watched the show as a whole?
Well, I've seen the whole show once all the way through, and I guess it's a little over a year ago or so since the last episode came out.
Gathering the timeline there.
Fair enough. The question on if the owl house is sentient, based on from my interpretation of the first episode, Hootie was the owl house. So I would have said yes based off the first episode.
Okay.
But now we know Hootie isn't the house.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah, no, not really.
yeah, that would. But I saying that would have been my guess based off of the first episode in isolation. Now that he's not the house, I would. It's probably more ambiguously sentient. Does it work like Warehouse 13, where it just constantly throws like MacGuffins at the party, or
No.
no? Okay. Because Warehouse 13 is sentient. I would agree, right,
Yeah,
Crimson?
like
I've just seen one Warehouse episode, I think.
the Christmas one.
Yeah.
Trying
And
to
yes,
think.
there's an element of sentience to the warehouse.
In Owl House, I think there's one MacGuffin the house kind of has, but it's kind of like a clue. It's not so much like an item that changes everything.
Oh, then when I refer to MacGuffins, I just mean like, does the Owl House just like spit out stories for them to do? Like,
Does
give out
it nudge them in
tasks?
directions to do anything?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. So it would be very ambiguous then if the Owl House is sentient.
Yeah.
I can't tell.
All the
based off first
stories are in
episode.
the world of the Boiling Isles, pretty much. It's not like every episode is like Luz going into a new room in the house.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, so based off the first episode, I would say it's ambiguous then.
Okay. Any more notes from anybody?
Don't think so.
All right.
Sweet. Nothing out of me. I guess that's episode 1. A Lion Witch and a Warden of the Owl House, the pilot. We'll go into summaries and ratings. Let us begin with. Let's start with writer this time.
All
Real
right.
quick.
Yeah.
What's episode 2 called, by the way?
Episode 2?
Yeah.
Give me a sec. I'll look it up because I didn't know.
Didn't know if it would give a hint to what hijinks they're going to go up to next. Now that the warden's out of the picture, I don't really know what the
Episode
the
2 is called
antagonist is.
Witches Before Wizards.
Okay. Guess we'll see a wizard.
I'm in
episode
for
2.
another title sequence, I suppose, with this show. All right, I'll start with my subjective. I like fantasy a lot. There's a lot of inconsistencies here that bugged me on a subjective level. I thought the messaging was a little too heavy-handed for my personal taste. I wanted to like Luz, but I just couldn't bring myself to, if that makes sense. So I'm at a subjective like 5 with this. I don't think it was a particularly strong pilot. It kind of discouraged me from watching it. But I can see why other people would enjoy it. I'm not. Yeah, so this is kind of where I am subjectively. Objectively, it's gone down since we started the podcast. I'll let you guys know it was out of 5 originally, but I'll go through the plot. I thought the pacing was very quick. Looking back on it now, I think it's too mechanically perfect to the point where it feels unnatural. There are things that I buy, them just kind of appearing in front of the Conformatorium. I was okay with that. They did that for pacing and they have to keep a specific time link. There are things like that that I'm okay with. But they just kind of jump to conclusions with characters without necessarily working for those payoffs. And otherwise, I think the plot's mostly driven by the character interactions with the world she finds herself in, and her actions led to her quote unquote punishment, which then led her to the outhouse. Like those make sense and they follow in sequence. There's not really too many issues I have with that. There's some convenience that she happens to catch the owl, and there's conveniences that kind of litter it, but while they're not all bad, it's kind of falls into the category of feels like a bunch of cuts have been made. Though I will say that the plot's still intact. World building has some issues. I'm kind of 50-50 on my world building in a whole. There's a lot of the minor things that don't work. Like as Crimson pointed out, they sacrificed a lot of the world building for the sake of jokes, which is kind of unfortunate. Because I think I would like to see the world flushed out a bit more without necessarily the jokes dragging it down. And I think that leads to characters, which is the biggest, usually the biggest issue on my scale. Etta, I'll start with Etta. Reseller of human things, doesn't know how they work, but she has some inconsistencies with how she sells those human things, which is, between the phone and the TV. She's smart enough to pack light or pack quickly, and I guess magic helps her with that regard. I have questions as to why she would set up shop there if she's wanted, but I don't know if that's an overarching show problem. Based on this show, I assume she just has the brazen confidence to not care because she can pack up so quickly. I think Etta is fine. I don't have any character assassination issues with her. The closest we get is her endangering the lives of her pet and the new human quote unquote friend she's made. For the Burger King crown, I guess. Burger Queen, sorry. King of Demons is funny. Small fella. No really extra power. Has very big imaginative minds. I think the only real inconsistency I have with him is the world building issue where he shakes the house as he's walking downstairs and he turns out to be just a little dude. Other than that, I think he's fine. Don't have many issues with him. I don't think what issues I don't think I have any issues with him outside of that. I have more issues with Etta, so I think I would put above her in a tier list. Funny enough. Warden was intimidating, tortures people, and sips for an owl lady, which I guess I subjectively I can vibe with, but I don't know if that's character assassination. It's very much a juxtaposition of what happened in terms of it's just a really big tonal shift. I don't know if it's character assassination because it's kind of like our first time meeting him, so there's just piling on character traits up until the climactic ending where all the weirdos take him out. I just grouped all the weirdos together in kind of one thing. I think they have fun little quirks. One's very much anarchist, destroy the system, and kind of gives hints as to whether, at least for me, dropped implications of whether this was all happening in Luz's head. I think the other two are just fine. It feels like they're just there. They have their odd quirks. One of them eats their own eyeballs, and the other one writes fan fiction. I consider those. I don't know if I consider those weird, just quirks of the world. The mom is shown to be loving and caring for her as long as she's supposed to be there, and from what I understand, she makes a lot of sense considering what Luz is as a character. And I guess it leads me to Luz. Her eccentricities hurt people. They don't fully understand that their eccentricities hurt people. They like reading fantasy. Doesn't have any quote unquote real friends until she's in the fantasy world. And I'm assuming that's kind of the point of found family, found friends kind of thing. Uh, she's smart enough to notice that she's being used when they manipulate her into helping out, stealing the Burger Queen crown. And then I have a lot of character issues with her, which I brought up throughout the course of the podcast, where the messaging through her character is botched. It's very inconsistent. Unfortunately, those are incorporated into her character traits. It's in that she's unaware of how terrible she is, while also simultaneously being a protagonist. And that's very much an issue of character writing with her. Those are some very hard to overcome inconsistencies. My objective is at a 4.
I went down a full
Alrighty.
point.
Yep.
I'll go next. Save Crimson for last year. Let's see. My subjective, I moved down out of a consideration to something that it's only the first episode and not the entirety of the show. So I moved it down half a point just to the realization of that. I'm like, I like the show, but just at the episode 1 on its own. So subjectively, I give it a 7. I find it very cute and fun and enjoyable. Objectively, which is funny enough, I usually start with objectives, so nice change on me. Thanks, writer. Objectively, I think the animation is nice. The lighting's very middle because there's lightings I really like, and then lightings I don't, which is the loss of shadows, which might be, I mean, the owl going into the house might just be an animation technique to use, and didn't have a shadow going in with it, but they still could have done that, especially if it was flying. And then just other parts where shadows are present and the shadows aren't present. I think when Luz first enters the owl house, but kind of panned out to show the candles up above, there's no shadowing on the ground there, which could be played off, lights in every direction, no shadows cast, but still there's nothing. So elements like that, that's kind of middle road for me. I like kind of all the characters. They do stand out as their own. No one seems to be identical to another, so I like that in contrast. The pacing's a little quick for me in believability. Ryder, you brought up that it was just materially too perfect? Something
Yeah.
along those lines?
Mechanically perfect.
Mechanically, that's it. Mechanically perfect. I can definitely see that. I think there is an element of that. I don't know that they didn't really have. I don't know if it was time or budget or anything to just take out a whole loose questioning a lot of things rather than just going with Ida in this fantasy. But I still find it believable, being that this is her world of fantasy she enjoys beforehand, and then like her wish is kind of granted. The writing, it's a-okay. Again, it's very quick and precise to the environment of what's currently going on to move the plot along, and very thick with the messaging of, weirdos together strong, or be yourself. Let's see what else. The cinematography, kind of harder. Again, I always touch on it with animation. It seems it's a little difficult to go with because it's like the storyboard artist choice, and then that lines up with the animation, so it's not exactly cinematography or director of photography to go with it. But some lined up shots were good. A lot of different positional angles. So there's straight ons, there's far away shots, there's location shots when she's looking at the boiling house and the hand building grabs something. There's top down shots. So there's a lot of variation, but nothing really stood out to me as like, that's a really good angle they went with that or something like that. It was fine. Yeah, I do not see as many problems with it that the two of you brought up with the show, but that does not mean it's perfect. So overall, and of course, as always, I'm always forgetting something. Maybe
Lighting.
editing, lighting I touched on with the shadow thing. Editing, I think editing was fine. Nothing seemed to be too quickly cut or moved, or transitional use. There wasn't, star wipes or anything like that, or a hand going over frame to cut. I guess the only one that really comes to mind is the warden coming at the camera to cut it. It was transitional use, but that was all fine to me. It all worked well. and good. So objectively, I give it a 7.5.
Okie dokie. I guess that leaves me. I will start with my subjective, because I think that is the bulk of my issues with this show. If I closed my eyes and just listened to the show without watching it, I would be able to tell when it came out, which inherently isn't bad, but a lot of techniques they use in writing today gets under my skin, and it's all present here without getting too deep into it, and that really sucks the enjoyment out of it for me. And that kind of mostly goes with how they handle certain situations like the messaging we're talking about, which inherently the message isn't bad. It's a good message. They just don't handle it well. It's kind of through a childish lens, through the writers, not for the content of a child's show. Because you can have a kid's show where it's more complex in philosophies and stuff. And that detracted heavily for me. And the lack of any care that I have for Luz is also a factor. I really did like King. I enjoyed him. I would like more of him going forward in the show. I don't know how much more of a presence he has, or if it's about the same amount going through. But best character for me. I had to go to our lists, our rating lists, so I could know where to put this, and I'm putting it at a subjective 3.5. Did not like this pilot. Sprinks did bring up how certain aspects that I didn't like get better, so there's a good chance my subjective could get higher watching it. But as a pilot,
Mars needs moms more than this.
That is correct. I give that a 4. So yeah, 3.5 for this.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
He enjoys Mars Needs Moms more than the pilot of it.
More than the pilot of it.
You're lucky this is a subjective list, Crimson.
I mean, it can be challenged in the recap if you find other examples I missed. Objectively, I brought up a lot of like paper cut things that I didn't bring out too many gouges, but is it a death by 1,000 paper cuts? Not quite, but they are bleeding out a little bit. I agree with a lot of what Ryder was saying with Luce and her inconsistencies, and I brought up her detachment from reality, and that kind of went through the podcast as well. And I don't know if she focuses on herself going through the show. I think that would make her a far better character. But as a pilot, I'm not seeing it going forward. But isolated, she has some inconsistencies with that. I liked the mom. She was consistent with the little screen time we got. She was stern but understanding. She wasn't slapping her with a ruler or anything. Ida, forgotten how to pronounce her name at this point. Is it Ida or Ida? Ida. Ida's interesting because she's usually a character that would bug me a lot. How lackadaisical. There we go. That's the word. She is. Usually those characters annoy me. And for this, she was just okay. I didn't like her. I didn't dislike her. She was just middle of the road for me. In terms of how my enjoyment and her writing is, because a couple of her jokes are at the sacrifice of the world building with potentially stealing using the owl. Sprink says there are barriers of protection going forward for that. Her choice of what items to keep or not keep, and her willingness to help her friends is a good trait I like, and goes well with her character. I feel as I'm mixing up a lot of subjective and my objective right now with terms. Hopefully I'm getting my points across, though. The warden, they set him up as a pretty severe bad guy. Everyone was afraid of him. He has a presence, and then Ryder was tackling whether or not it was character assassination or not, and I had the same issues because we get so little of him before that. Is that him or is it not him? the subversion. And I'm going to say, based off the established fear that others have, I'm leaning more towards the assassination part. So that's what I'm putting in my objective. He got damaged by the boyfriend-girlfriend thing. And the way they take him out is not good either, because he saw them, didn't react, and then once they were tackling him, he was flailing his arms around instead of actually trying to take them off of him, because he's got these tentacle arms, which are cool. But the animation, it's pretty average, I think, for modern animation. It's not quite the Cal Arts look, but it's close. It's serviceable. So objectively, I'm giving it a 6 with all my rambling nonsense.
Okie dokie. Well, out of that, I can let you know that there are future episodes that are heavily focused on Kane.
Good.
There was something else you said that I forgot.
Was it
It was something.
Luce's character progressing?
No, I can't remember.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, that was Owl House. Shall I read us out?
have
I
nothing
think
else.
so.
All right. Well, audience, thank you for listening, whether it be at Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Samsung, and iHeartRadio. If you happen to be on our visual side of things, checking out our new pilot PNG tubers, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions, how much you love them. As always, I have been a Geeky Writer.
I'm Carson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.